Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad, political analyst Ande Engleman on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the News 4 Broadcast Center, here's Sam Shad.
Lots of tax plans are floating around at this point. Not too much in the way of bills, though. We're joined today by Mike Hillerby, the Deputy Chief of Staff for our governor. And Governor Guinn sent you in here to tell us what's going on.
Absolutely. Good morning.
Mike.
Nice to see you.
Being
You
here.
bet.
I have a number of questions to ask you about the tax bill that was released last week. But first of all, I understand the governor made an announcement yesterday at the Board of Examiners meeting that if the legislature doesn't want to pass these quick taxes right away, it might be okay to wait a week or so.
I think that's what we've been saying all along, that clearly April 1st was the deadline we had in mind. They need to be passed by then to be able to pick up the revenue for April, May, and June that we think we need to get through the end of this year. Again, one of the questions that came up was, can you make it? Well, if everything goes well, if we don't go to war, if the economy chugs along as it's going now, we have a few more good months, yeah, we think we can. One of the things we pointed out was, talking about an ending fund balance of between $70 million and $100 million. It's a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money to people, until you realize that runs the state for 20 days or less. There's not a lot of money left in the bank account. And I think the analogy is, we're sitting here in March. We have revenue numbers for our year. We know how much we've made this year through January. Through December for sales tax. We have another half a year to go. It's hard to remember sitting here in March, June, a couple of months away, saying, well, okay, you're doing all right. Well, we don't know how much we've made the last 3 months. We don't know what we're going to make the next 3 months. If you had a savings account at home that lasts you 20 days, would you spend it now?
Okay. I'm sorry. In the bill that was introduced last week, one of the things that people find most alarming is that the bill invites the IRS to come into Nevada, share information with our taxation department.
There's been a lot of talk about creating a Nevada IRS. An ability to share information with the IRS to find out about businesses coming into Nevada, we think makes some sense to be able to get that kind of information. So we know what's going on, so you know about the businesses that are here. A basic audit function. Again, trying to find out those businesses. The vast majority of Nevada businesses and business owners like being here. They want to be a part of the state. They'll be happy to follow the laws that are here because Nevada's a good place to do business. Those that don't, we need some enforcement mechanism.
Is it starting to sink in with legislators and the public yet about the seriousness of the situation?
I think it is, and that's a really good question. Early on in the session, first week of the budget hearings, I was sitting there, and our budget director, Perry Como, slid over a couple of chairs and said, give the legislators some time. Remember how you felt in November when we were busy trying to build the budget, looking at all these numbers and how really overwhelming they were when you realized how quickly, relatively speaking, we got to this problem. I think that's starting to sink in. Last week in Clark County, they started having meetings with the school district, and I think between 700 and 1,000 people showed up for those and said, wait a minute, you're talking about cutting $160 million out of our budget, laying off teachers. That's serious. You're starting to see people come to the same kinds of meetings here. Just last night at the school board meeting, when you start talking about cutting $20 million out of Washoe County schools, laying off teachers, no new teachers for the new kids that are coming in, expanding class sizes, people stand up and say, well, wait a minute, let's have a conversation about this.
So I think it's pretty much, a lot of people I've talked to recognize we need to raise taxes. It's just how we're going to do it, what might be the best way. One of the things in the governor's bill addressed independent contractors because they do file a Schedule C, even though they may not be organized as a business. Mm-hmm. So that means their personal tax returns also will be shared with the Department of Taxation.
It is not in any plans that I'm aware of that personal tax returns would be shared. The point is, if you know you're filing a Schedule C or a Schedule F, you'd be required to fill out a tax return, essentially with the state, to say, do you need to pay the business activity tax that now $100, the governor's proposal for the next 2 years, that would go up to $300, and buy a business license in the state of Nevada. We don't think that's an onerous provision. We've got businesses here that have been operating, for example, the operation down in Douglas County last year that blew up. They didn't have a business license. Nobody knew they were there. They hadn't been inspected. We think some reasonable level of regulation and awareness of what kinds of businesses are in the state makes sense. Neighbors want to know what's going on. Obviously, those same kinds of things don't necessarily apply to an independent contractor, but you're here doing business. Again, it's a good place to do business. We don't think that's an unfair price.
When the governor made the State of the State speech, it was a wonderful speech, and it drew a whole new program for Nevada to move us to the next level. At this point, with discussions with legislators and the public, are we really looking to just maintain where we are now and perhaps move a little bit ahead and perhaps not go as far as we had hoped?
You know, I think it's very early yet. We talk about the session. There's always an ebb and flow in every session. This is like every other session in that respect. Obviously, the stakes are a little higher for a lot of the legislators and a lot of us involved, and for every Nevadan. I think people are very interested in doing something more. The governor's point from the beginning was, you know, if you have talked to the public about $700 million to keep services where they are, if you're going to have to go raise taxes like that and say we need $700 million from Nevada businesses, Nevada citizens, the tourists that come to Nevada that pay a sizable share of our taxes. Do we want to go out and say that's all we're going to do is keep things status quo? Is it time to start making some improvements in education? So the money the governor's put in the budget for textbooks and technology and supplies in the classroom, signing bonuses for teachers, moving to full-day kindergarten, some other things to say, we've set high standards for our kids. We're demanding more from them. The national federal legislation, the No Child Left Behind, is going to label schools as failing. Don't we have a responsibility to do something to be sure those kids have the tools they need to succeed?
Okay, so still alive, but maybe barely.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get there.
Okay, Mike Hillerby, thanks so much for being here. We
You bet.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be back on Nevada Newsmakers after this timeout.
CTX can help you negotiate your best deal. We've been your home team advantage for over a decade. Call us today because at CTX, local service still matters.
Yeah, with CTX, you're homeward bound.
When you sign up for Wells Fargo Free Checking, you get more than free checking. You get the freedom to bank when and where you want. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Atlantis is cooking up a party. It's every diner's paradise. 7 award-winning dining choices. Experience the Atlantis Seafood Steakhouse tonight. Winner of Wine Spectator's Award of Excellence. The local choice for food and fun, Atlantis. Atlantis. At Sushi Club, everybody's family. That's what makes dining here so much fun. The sushi is consistently better, the atmosphere's great, and the service is wonderful.
Welcome to the bigger and better Sushi Club. Come in for our delicious daily specials.
When you're talking sushi, you're talking Sushi Club in the Independence Square Shopping Center.
Personal injury lawyers want you to think there's no health care crisis. But here's what real mothers have to say.
There is a crisis in Nevada. Every doctor I called turned me away.
My daughter had to go to California for her prenatal care.
Now I need surgery, and I don't have a doctor.
We have to fight to keep our doctors in Nevada.
Don't let personal injury lawyers drive more doctors out of Nevada. Call 800-784-4730. Tell your legislator to keep our doctors in Nevada.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
Sam McMullen is one of the state's most prominent lobbyists. He represents a variety of businesses, and he joins us this morning.
Thank you for being with us, Sam.
Nice to be here. Thank
you
you.
represent a consortium of businesses, and the word is that they don't want to pay taxes and that they've lied about it and that they're not going to pay taxes.
Well, actually, nothing could be farther from the truth. Actually, I appreciate the chance to answer that because we put together a whole effort starting at the end of last session to try and make sure we understand the state's fiscal problems, what the numbers were, what the needs were, and how we could be a part of solving that and maybe even come up with our own plan, which we actually committed to do and did do.
Okay. And the plan is?
Basically, we think that there are hundreds of millions of dollars necessary. The business has to do its fair share in that, and that we think that there's a way to do that that will actually raise the funding for the future of the state of Nevada. A key part of ours is reducing the sales tax on product sales, which we think we can do, and most importantly, solve the problem for the long term. Its prominent feature is not only business-only taxes for nearly a couple $100 million, but beyond that, spreading the economy, the tax, to our economy, which would be services as well. 60% of our economy is services, and we're not even talking about those transactions.
Now, that would be a tax, though, that people would pay, right?
Clearly. I mean, actually, I think the whole thing that comes to light in all this is that regular people pay taxes. And even if businesses pay taxes, those get transferred on in some way. What our hope was that we could control that so that the regressive side was taken out and that those necessities that were to be paid for by people who could least afford them, that there was a way of dealing with that, and most importantly, that we allowed them to make tax decisions, very transparent tax decisions. In some of the ideas we have right now, those tax decisions are very hidden, and they're just going to be...
All right, now your group's opposed to the, excuse me, I'm sorry, Sam.
Go ahead.
Your group's opposed to the 0.25% gross receipts tax, and so if we don't do that and we go with a tax on services, will that allow some businesses such as banks to escape paying any more taxes at all?
Actually, no. We're finding out that businesses are large consumers of services. They would in fact pay the service transaction tax, whatever you want to call it, but every time they utilized a service as an end user, they would pay a tax on it. And we're finding out with some of the businesses that they pay more in services than they do in product sales. And frankly, we are pretty comfortable that many of them will pay their fair share. If the legislator wants to do more than that, that's fine. But we were trying to create a broad-based tax where business paid a major share, and that it funded the future of the state and actually provided the kind of revenue that we really need to.
The governor's proposing a bill that will be aimed specifically at banks and getting more revenue from them. Is that a bill that you would oppose?
I'm not aware of a bill specifically on banks, but I think our point is and has been that businesses will pay their fair share of a broad-based tax. Everyone said that, and that someone in the legislature will look and see if that component is fair for that sector, and if they think they need to do something differently or additional, that's something they can propose. But we're very confident that we'll be paying our fair share.
Okay, are you looking, I asked Mike Hillerby about this, about whether the governor's vision was being maintained here or whether they were backing off from this. I mean, are you trying to get the business taxes up to the point where it will be able to carry out the governor's major plan?
Well,
is it realistic?
Well, I thought you asked a very excellent question. And that was something that we've grappled with since, frankly, from May of 2000 on, when we started hearing numbers that we were going to be out of whack as a state. And we programmed our plan for more than actually that the governor has talked about, because in a way he had to balance the budget and do whatever else he thought he had revenue for. But we tried to program for larger solutions. And so consequently, when we talked about this, we talked about a range of dollars at or about where the governor is or more, depending on where the legislature goes with this. Part of that is that we think it has to be a vehicle that has the ability and the capacity to fund those kind of dollars. But we're for a long-term solution of all these issues, not just a break-even plan.
And you're looking also at a tax shift away from the gaming industry, but not excluding, obviously.
Yeah, actually, I think the governor's done a wonderful service to the state by stepping out and making sure that people understand the issues that are facing us. He's really, I think, been what he's supposed to be as a public official, and beyond that, he's a real leader. And I think the area where we clearly agree with him is that we are much too dependent on gaming and sales tax as our revenue source. It needs to be structurally and stably broadened, and that was a fundamental point of what we tried to create.
And just quickly,
go ahead.
One last question. Do you support more funding for education?
Yes, that's been a fundamental part of the business community's plan. We think that there are additional monies there that are needed there, and that needs to be funded as well.
Okay, and I got one last one, but you can just give me a number on this. What will the gaming tax be at the end of the session?
I don't know if I want to speculate.
Speculate.
No, I want to say this first. I think we have to be very careful about the burden that we put on gaming at this point. And I think that's part of the fundamental tenor of what we came up with, was that they will pay their fair share of a lot of these taxes, and including anything that we've proposed. And that may actually be adequate. Whether the legislature chooses to do something beyond that, I think they need to be very careful.
Is it going to be a point? You're out of time. We're taking a break. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers. Thanks for being here, Sammy.
Take a break and treat the family to breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Tamarack Junction. Enjoy pasta night on Wednesdays, Mexican on Thursdays, and seafood on Fridays. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amani Ranch Parkway.
When he was just a young boy, Ken Dillon laid back, looked up at the stars, and thought to himself, hey, this house could use a roof. Today, Ken Dillon's D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal offers a complete line of elk roofing products for any type of residential roof. With an elk roof from D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal, what's overhead stays overhead. Call Ken Dillon's D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal today for a free estimate. Yes, the technology sure has changed, but after all these years, Ken still enjoys playing with houses.
We've loosened our machines. We've given you the Gold Dust West Gold Rush Club, Reno's best slot club. You can win lots of jackpots. Play longer. Your points will add up faster than you think. Yeah, we're loose and we're not screwing around. See you at the Gold Dust West, south on Keystone, east on Ford.
Folks, you must see what's new in Virginia City. Ride the V&T train all the way to Gold Hill. Explore a mine, if you dare. Visit Piper's Opera House. Watch the gunslingers shoot it up on C Street. Shop in unique stores. Listen to honky tonk in the historic saloons. You can't see it all in one day, so spend the night. Virginia City, where the West comes alive. Come up and spend the night in our hotels, motels, and RV parks.
At Tamarack Junction, you can take advantage of fabulous food around the clock. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, give the oven and yourself a rest. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
I think we have your attention. It's time for the pundit panel, right, Andy?
It certainly is.
Okay, on the panel today, we've got Jim Denton, political consultant, Jan Gilbert with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, and John Cummings with the Southern Nevada Community College. Welcome to all of you. Andy, Senator Titus put out an interesting memo.
Yes, Senator Titus wants to help take care of doctors, particularly obstetricians, gynecologists, insurance, by taxing, I guess it's men's clubs, is that what we call them?
Men's clubs would be the polite term.
All right. The doctors have objected. What's wrong, Jim? You work for the doctors.
Well,
What's
I work
wrong?
for the doctors. You know, the problem is that the problem is far more serious than just having this strip clubs, if you will, put together an insurance fund for the state. It's a much more serious problem than that.
Well, Jan and John, let me ask you, is it really important where the money comes from? So long as we're funding education, we're funding things that are needed, does it matter where the money comes from?
I'm sure that a classroom teacher in this state or a university professor or college professor could care less whether it comes from a topless club or where it comes from. They need the money.
Yeah, I would agree with that because we're in bad straits and we need that money. And even the governor says his proposal is just to practically break even. I mean, $700 million just to break even isn't going to bring us up. I think we were recorded yesterday as we're now 46th in per pupil spending.
You know, I don't think anyone in this tax debate, by the way, is against educating children. I don't think anyone in this tax debate is against providing services for the state. I don't think anyone in this tax debate is against funding the state. I don't think that's what this is about. What this is about is there are different plans on the table, and which one is more cost-effective, and which one is more efficient, and which one does most for the Nevadans on a net dollar basis, I think is what this whole debate is about.
Jim, what did you think of Mike Hillerby's comments this morning?
You know, I have a lot of respect for what the governor's done. I agree with Sam. The governor has shown a lot of leadership in this and showing that this state is far too dependent upon sales tax and gaming tax as a total revenue. I think that my biggest problem with that is, and I've said repeatedly on this show, that I think there's a simpler way to do this. I mean, Mr. Hillerby talked this morning about, you know, essentially creating a mini IRS system and sharing information with the Internal Revenue Service. I think it's far too complicated to do it that way. I think there's a better solution. I think there are groups, including Mr. McMullen's, that have got some very attractive proposals. You know, I've said on this show for a long time, Sam, that I've been a big advocate of cutting the sales tax, and that is one of the things that I really think is appealing about Mr. McMullen's program.
And that's true, but you know, the thing that I think keeps coming up in my mind is that business seems to not want to pay, at least not a broad base. I mean, I think Mr. McMullen's suggestions, I'm looking forward to seeing how much they raise and who actually pays them. But from my mind, I've heard small business people here talk about they can't afford a gross receipts tax. And you know, you start talking to them and you hear them say consumers will pay. On the other hand, they can deduct it from their federal income tax. So why are they complaining so much?
Okay, well, let's ask Mr. McMullen. I'm stuttering here. He's over here on a remote microphone. Sam, you want to respond to that?
Well, I actually think it's very interesting. You know, we're talking about coming up with an additional hundreds of millions of dollars that we're proposing, and no one will let us pay it the way we want to pay it. Somebody else always knows a better way that the taxpayer should pay the tax, especially those who use the taxes. We're just saying there's a smarter way to do it. There's a way that we could do it that actually makes it fair to more people, and that we'd like to at least have that debated in the legislature.
Jan, you want to respond?
I agree with him. I want to see it debated. I look forward to seeing this proposal.
I don't want to
But
see
my
it debated. I want to
concern-
see it solved. We have to fund this state. I want to see a consensus between the governor's office and Mr. McMullen's group and the legislature to fund things in the state. Because you look at Southern Nevada, you look at Northern Nevada. I've said this numerous times on this program. We're going to have 27,000 new kids to educate next year. We need to solve this problem, and we need to solve it in fairly short order.
I'm so glad to see everybody finally gets this, solving the problem, because from originally I heard a lot of legislators saying there isn't a problem, and we've heard it. I just heard it yesterday from one of the assemblymen.
But one of the concerns you have to look at is if we go to war with Iraq, what kind of economic hit that's going to put on the state.
Okay,
And that's going to put a whole different fiscal picture on
Let's
it.
bring that up. John, what kind of problems do you think we're going to have if we go to war?
Gosh, Andy, I'm an English teacher. It's kind of, I haven't really thought much about what kind of, and I'm way too old to go to war. But obviously, Jim is right. It will have a significant impact on the state. I mean, we are a tourist state, and obviously that will affect tourism. And this is extremely serious.
I found it so interesting the other day. The governor proposed a short-term solution, a 3-month solution. In fact, Mr. McMullen supported that solution. No one else did. I think he and I were the only ones who supported it. And I was just shocked that people don't see that we are going to have a problem. I think just even the talk of war, you heard about the airlines now, are starting to have some real problems again. You're talking about people coming to Nevada to get
but I think it's going to be, hang on a second. Hey, it's my name on the door. Let me have a word. I think you're going to see some businesses that have got fundamental problems like the airline industry, that the war may present a circumstance where the government goes, you're running an inefficient system that's not making money now, it has no way of making money in the future, and we're not going to bail you out. And I think there may be other industries who are along the same lines.
You're looking at staggering losses. They estimate that if we go to war against Iraq, the airline industry will lose $13 billion.
Right, but they're losing billions of dollars right now.
No question about that. But that will have a rippling effect. Because what will affect this state greatly. 2 things. Number 1, air service to Las Vegas. We go to war, people are going to quit flying. Number 2, $2 a gallon gas. People are going to quit driving to Northern Nevada from the Bay Area.
Well,
and that is Phil Satry said yesterday. And those are going to be some significant challenges.
Why is it that you didn't support the governor's emergency proposal? I mean, we are looking at a severe problem in the state of Nevada.
Jan, I hate to interrupt you, but we are out of time. We'll continue this discussion later on. We'll be back on Nevada Newsmakers after this timeout.
If you're talking sushi, you're talking Sushi Club. Year after year voted the best place for sushi. 11 chefs on staff to serve you. Better ingredients for consistent high quality. And lots of room, so bring your friends. Sushi Club in the Independence Square Shopping Center.
Feel it, the magic is everywhere. The action, the style, the food, the flair. Play with us, stay with us. In Reno, stay El Dorado. And live the excitement.
CTX can help you negotiate your best deal. We've been your home team advantage for over a decade. Call us today because at CTX, local service still matters.
Yeah, with CTX, you're homeward bound.
When you sign up for Wells Fargo free checking, you get more than free checking. You get the freedom to bank when and where you want. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Atlantis is cooking up a party. It's every diner's paradise. Toucan Charlie's Buffet and Grill, consistently voted Reno's best buffet by locals. Experience the Mongolian barbecue, new Asian station, and sumptuous exhibition stations filled with fresh entrees, salads, and desserts. Try the Friday night seafood buffet and Sunday champagne brunch.
Atlantis.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
And a rather interesting turn of events today on the show.
Well, you know, business has now said that they're going to go with everything the governor wants except the gross receipts tax. I don't know what the problem is.
We'll find out as the story continues. We'll see you tomorrow.